There we go. Okay, cool. We're live now. Go ahead.
Let me see. I'm gonna look for yours on IG. Or is it Facebook Live or Instagram Live?
Facebook.
Okay. I thought it was Instagram Live. Okay.
So I can link Instagram later. So what's up, y'all? Bryan here again, BC. I'm here with Aaron, Mr. Powerhouse himself, who we're going to introduce here in a second. We've been doing a continuous interview series, right? Some guests I've had on, some guests I've been on their podcast, and vice versa. And I know people have been enjoying the interview format. Hopefully in the future, we can get Aaron to come out here and bring his ass to Miami so we can do it in person. But
100%.
I don't know, bro. He's a busy man. So what's up, bro?
How's it going, brother? Appreciate you having me on. I always enjoy talking to you. There's a lot of things that I learn from you. So it's always a pleasure.
So what's up, bro? Let's get a quick introduction, then we'll roll right into the podcast.
Yeah. So, my name's Aaron Mireles. I'm the founder and CEO of Powerhouse Fitness. We have 2 locations currently right now in City of Industry and in Duarte. We're in the process of opening up our 3rd location in the city of La Habra. Hopefully within 45 days, we'll be up and running over there. That'll be our biggest facility up to date. It's about 8,000 square feet. Fortunately enough, we're also able to purchase that building. So acquired a piece of real estate along the way, or commercial real estate along the way. It's been an experience in itself, going through all the planning and all that good stuff and the leaps and, overcoming the different adversities and, the entrepreneurship has been a grind. So, it's a little bit about me.
Love it, bro. So what inspired originally, bro? Because I know a lot about your story, and I think we've done an episode before, but really, what really inspired you to go this route? I know you used to be a trainer, right? Then you opened up Powerhouse. Like, where did the inception and all that begin? Was it always there, or did it suddenly just kind of blossom out of nowhere?
To be honest, it started, luckily enough, I was able to, I think I had mentioned this in the past. I was fortunate enough, my parents were fortunate enough to be able to send me to private school, sacrificed a lot. And I think going into an environment where you see parents that have, or kids whose parents, have accomplished a lot, lawyers, doctors, business owners, and then coming from a family who was like, middle working class, lower middle class, and asking myself the question, well, how come we don't have these things? How come we're not in this certain predicament? How come, we live with grandma, or how come we don't drive these cars? And I think from a young age, it stemmed the question of why not me? And then from so on and so forth, it kind of developed into something different of on the pursuit of constantly wanting more, and that led me into, always dabbling into flipping things on Craigslist. I used to flip cars on Craigslist, odds and ends things here. And then, I was a kinesiology major at Cal State Fullerton, played sports all my life, played soccer, a little bit of semi-pro soccer. And then after I kind of hung that up is when, I dabbled into the fitness side of things. So, like yourself, athlete, always, in the gym, in the weight room, just working on yourself. And that kind of stemmed into me going the kinesiology route. I worked at LA Fitness for a little while, and, it wasn't for me. I started taking some clients on the outside. And then in October of like 2012, I believe I was driving right on Colima over in the city of Hacienda Heights, where I'm from, right in front of the 24-hour fitness. And I get a phone call about 8:00 at night from the VP of LA Fitness. And he calls me. He's like, "Is this Aaron?" I'm like, "Yes, this is Aaron." I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "This is Mike Melanie, VP of LA Fitness of this region." And I was like, "We're going to have to let you go." And I'm like, "Well, why?" And he's like, "Well, I seen that you've been running a boot camp at Thomas Burton Park. It's a conflict of interest." And at that time, I didn't even know what a conflict of interest was. I was like, all right. So then at that point, I got thrown into fire, and I was entrepreneur by choice at that point. Yeah. And then, the kind of the rest is led me here.
That's crazy, bro. What do you think would have happened if you didn't get that call?
To be honest, I think I would have ended up in the same predicament. It would have been a little bit slower. I think that I was trying to figure things out, and, trying to figure out how I was going to get there. But I think when you put fuel to the fire, things just happen a hell of a lot faster, Yeah,
absolutely, bro. Burn the boats, like they say, right?
100%.
So 100%. I know, like, since I've known you, bro, and you've started the business, there's been a lot of things that have transpired, right? People you still work with, people you don't work with, right? You have a second location. You're in the process of opening up your third, in which you actually purchased the commercial piece of real estate to go with it. Let's talk about that a little bit, bro. What led you to finally say, hey, not only do I want to have the space, I want to own the actual space that we have the gym in? Because that to me is a big change, a big transition, and it requires a lot more capital as well.
100%. I think that has always been the overall goal. I think that real estate is probably one of the best ways, or the best way, to build wealth, obviously through appreciation. And, obviously if I decide to rent it later on, if I keep that spot or I franchise that specific location, I'll always have like that brick and mortar in that land. It's never going to be worth zero. That's something that I've learned from numerous people in the real estate space. Took a couple pages out of your book too as well. And, the real estate is never going to be worth zero. It's probably one of the most, protected assets, you could say.
Yeah.
And one thing that I wasn't a fan of is when you start a business, you're kind of at the mercy of whoever the landlord is. Hey, you know what? I'm doing all these renovations to this building. I'm not too sure if I'm going to be able to stay here long term. They're going to, put certain sanctions. Okay, well, don't knock down this wall. You can do this. You can't do that. Okay, well, at the end of this lease term, we're going to increase your rent. So, those are things that I've always paid attention to, and it just didn't necessarily sit well with me. So I've always had in my plan of action to own every piece of every piece of land in which I was going to put a franchise. So that's still the ultimate goal, and fortunately enough, we're trying to work that into the game plan. So when we open up a location, I would like to, almost like the McDonald's model, right? Like own the land and then place the franchise. So then I, work with the territory, and then it also makes it easier for the franchise owner to, find a spot because it's already, pre-picked. But I think that for the longevity of the business and just like security wise, I think it was important for me to be able to purchase the real estate.
Yeah, I love that, man. What would you say? I'm assuming you have one, maybe you don't. What would you say is like the mission statement of your business in Powerhouse?
We have a couple different. We have some core values that are along the lines of like relentless work ethic, integrity, those certain things. But the mission statement is obviously to empower people around us through health and fitness and getting people to see what they might not see in themselves. We're pulling, this vision that, people have in the back of their minds of where they want to be, but they may not be able to pull it out themselves. And whether that be through fitness, whether that be through personal development, whether that be through relationships or whatever it is trying to get that person to the next level with obviously our help.
I love that, bro. Is that an extension of you directly? And did you kind of take yourself through that journey and now you're kind of sharing it with the world? Or 100%. Was that a separate concept that you created?
No, I think it's in congruency with me. I'm all about servant leadership. I think in the very beginning of entrepreneurship, I was very selfish. Everything was like, well, I want to make a lot of money. That's why I'm in this. And I think as you get into it, you understand that it's like, well, fuck, I went through 7 years of not making shit and I still did it. So obviously it's not about the money, right? Because if it was about the money, I probably would have thrown in the towel at year 3, and I think as you get into it, you start to understand it's like, well, it's not about that. It's more of servant leadership and empowering others, and not to get into all that cliche bullshit, but it really does feel good. It really does feel good to put other people on game and just it's almost like a motivation for me too as well. It's like, I got to stay on my stuff because other people are watching me, So I think it's an extension of servant leadership, an extension of myself that's kind of all wrapped in one.
Yeah. And it's funny, bro, because I don't even think it's cliche, bro, because now that you've experienced it and gone through it and you know what it actually is, like the substance of it, it's different, bro. Because I used to think the same way. And I think all of us, when we get into entrepreneurship, it's the same shit. Like, I want the bag. I want to make money. I don't want to work a 9 to 5, right? Like you want to be able to tell that same person who gave you a call, like, yo, look at me now. Like I make more than you. It's very ego driven and self-driven. But I think that's one of those recipes that you need, bro, in the beginning. You almost need like a chip on your shoulder. Otherwise, you won't make it through the hard times. You mentioned you went 7 years without really making shit, right?
100%. That's kind of my go-to slogan is you got to eat shit for a long time before you start, turning the page.
Yeah. And again, if in those 7 years, that's not driven primarily by, I really want this and that ego, I think it would be difficult for people to make it through it. So I just think it's a normal part of that transition. So if you remember like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at the top, we're contributors and we give. you're getting to that point now, right? We build the people around us with the example that we set and what we put in place. You having a business, you can employ people, help people, train people, transform people, provide a service and something that's valuable to people. And that's why it's growing, right? But you got to get there, right? Just like you said, you got to eat shit to get there. And in that process, you develop. So I wanted to ask you, bro, as a person, what do you think some of the biggest things are about you that have changed over the last, it's been over 10 years now. You've been with Powerhouse, right? 2012, 2013, so over 10 years.
That's a good question, man, because I do some self-reflection often. And I think the things that mattered in the beginning are no longer the things that matter now. Because I haven't crossed the point financially of where ultimately I want to be, right? And watching people, I understand, they always say well, money isn't everything. But I feel that you have to get there to that point where you want to be to then look back and be like, money is not everything. But you have to get there first, because until you get there, then you're like, well, it is everything, because you're still a victim to that, So I've crossed some certain paths and certain, milestones in my life where I could look back now and be like, well, that isn't everything. It's more than that. But I feel like you have to get there first, because I feel like when I first started, it was like shoes, every athlete, it's like shoes. Oh, I love shoes. And then once you're able to have every pair of shoes that you want, it's no longer about the shoes. And then it's like, you move into cars, and it's like, okay, well, once you are able to purchase any car that you want, it's not really about the car, And then I'm assuming it gets into real estate, and then it gets into these other things. So I think as you get higher along this ladder, it becomes more about your mission and where you're trying to take your business and the people that you're trying to impact, and getting them to see like, okay, cool, I'm trying to move you up this ladder with me, but only if you're down for the journey, So I think that's one of the biggest takeaways is you realize the things that you start that were driving you in the beginning, how you had just mentioned, were no longer the driving forces, and the driving force all along was the mission. It was just kind of covered by some other shit.
Yeah. How is your parents and family's viewpoint of you and the conversations around all this changed as you've kind of ascended that ladder? Because I'm sure now they're probably singing praises and like, oh my God, we're so proud of you. Like, how has that evolved over the last 10 years?
It's funny that you say that, because in the beginning, it's like, well, Aaron, how come you didn't go to UCLA? How come you didn't do this? So-and-so's son is going here. Like, we spent all this money on private school, and you're going to fucking be a personal trainer. Like, what's going on? And, you just wear it in the beginning, just wear it, and you just roll with the punches. And I think if anything, it builds resiliency. And my mom is my biggest critic. My dad has always been, pretty supportive. My mom has been my biggest critic, but I'm so thankful for that, because without that fuel to the fire, I don't think I'd be where I'm at. Because in the beginning, it was all about, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to prove you wrong. And I think you need that. You need some adversity. You need some people to talk shit and ruffle your feathers a little bit. It's good. It's good for you. And I'm very grateful for it. I know I give my mom a hard time about, giving me a hard time in the beginning, but I needed it. I look back and now in the very beginning, I looked at it as like, man, what the hell? How come I see all these other moms showing love to their sons and they're just like so supportive. And I'm like, my mom, like, what the fuck, But it wasn't until later on that I viewed it and understood it as like the expectation was high and she didn't want me to fall short, know? So as far as looking at it from, in hindsight and like the bigger picture, of course it was weary, because I think parents in the very beginning are just concerned. They're concerned because they want the best for their kids, best for their family. But it was tough, dealing with the comparison, especially as a young man, and looking at my mom talk about, well, so-and-so's son went here, so-and-so is doing this. And it's like, all right, well, just hold on and watch me work.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because I remember, and I think every parent does this, it's almost like a competition, right? Like you have to be doing better than everyone else's sons. And people used to clown me because I'd go to like a family friends party and they're like, oh, you're in real estate. My son's a lawyer and he makes like, $200,000 a year. And it's funny because a couple years later, I was like, yo, I made that like in a month. Like, get the fuck out of here, right? Like, you used to talk so much shit about your son, and now like what he does is like drops in the bucket for me in regards to money, right? And then they keep moving the bar, right? And they try to find some new way to talk shit about you, but eventually it hits a point where they can't. And they can't help but respect what you do, because even to this day, when I talk to my parents, I don't know if you've asked this to your parents, I said, did you ever think I was going to be this successful? And my parents say, fuck no. Like, we never thought you would do something like you did now, right? So I don't know. Have you ever asked your parents that? Like, what did they say if you did?
I haven't directly asked the question, but my mom, when I recently bought a new home over here in North Hills in La Habra, and every time I make a purchase or I do something, my mom gets nervous and gets scared. So I take that as a sense of like, I would have never fathomed that. How are you doing this right now? How are you making these movements? How are you making these adjustments? And it's just like, well, it becomes normal. You learn how to just maneuver through things. And I haven't directly asked that question, but I know that it's probably, trickling in the back of the mind.
Yeah. So if we talk a little bit more about your business, man. So first, is Powerhouse the only kind of big ticket or business thing that you're doing, or are you kind of doing some other entrepreneurial stuff too?
Right now, I've really doubled down on just the Powerhouse stuff. And, building the business to the 3 locations as we get ready to franchise. Some of the subsets that we have still are the FreshnFuego, which is our meal prep, and then our supplement line, which I haven't put as much effort into as far as like growth aspect, because I just wanted to serve the people, that I've had currently. But I really doubled down actually this year. We moved to a different, a new, bigger kitchen. I just got permitted yesterday. So we're going to start cooking tomorrow and go live again on Monday with the FreshnFuego. But everything that I have, it just kind of goes and intertwines with one another, with the Powerhouse being the bread and butter, because that's ultimately where I want to take it. Maybe you could help answer this question for me. When did you decide to, because consulting and business and just speaking about business, especially in my niche and things of the sort, has always been a passion of mine, especially in servant leadership, because I know I can help people. Like I'm a firm believer in that. There's no 100%, no doubt. When did you cross that avenue of like getting into the consulting and coaching, or was it when the marketplace told you of like, I have a bunch of people asking me now, so now it's time to do this? Or do you do that still? Or how did you make that transition?
Yeah. And it's pretty much what you said, bro. Like initially for me, I had zero interest in doing that. Like, so you want to do it. I was always like, fuck it. I just want to work and build. Yeah. And that's it. So when people started asking me, I was like, what the fuck do you think my content is for? Like, I'm showing you what I'm doing. Just do what I did, right? Yeah. But then it kept coming and coming and coming and coming. And after I think I counted, it was like almost the 100th person that asked me. I was like, fuck, man. And I was like, why do people keep asking me? So I was like, fuck it, I'll do it, right? And then I got my friend at the time who did video and editing. I said, hey, bro, throw some shit together, because I made my first door knocking course, right? Throw some shit together. This is the way I'll do it. Instead of paying you, I'll pay you for the first like 100 sales, and I'll give you like half, right? We're going to sell it for $300. You'll end up making like 15 G's. You'll make more than if I just pay you. He's like, okay. So I released this door knocking product, bro. It gets featured on Inman News randomly, which is like the #1 real estate news source or like website out there. And I sell 100 copies the first 30 days. We make 30 grand, right? So he makes 15, I make 15. I was like, what the fuck? So, but that wasn't what sold me on it. It was the comments I was getting. Oh my God, this was incredible. Holy shit, I never learned something like this. And keep in mind, bro, it was a 1-hour video product that I made on door knocking, just going into like specifics of what I did and what I learned, right? And what was most important. And just, I was blown away, bro, by the response. After I did that, it started turning the wheels a little bit, bro. But there was no desire there initially, man. But when I look at it now, if I look at the field, right, and I look at experts in that field, if I'm amongst the experts in regards to ability, results, then it's very easy for me to say, okay, this is something that I can teach, right? Because the question I would ask you is, if I talk to other people who were in your industry and they just took a look at you on paper, would they say, okay, this dude knows his shit? Like, he has a legitimate business here, right? And if the answer is yes, then absolutely you can teach, because you've accomplished something, and this is one of the requirements I say, is you're accepted by your peers. Are there other successful, franchises and gym owners that would look at you and say, yeah, Aaron's a part of this clique? And if the answer to that is yes, like they would respect you, then I would say 100% you can do it, bro, because that's really what it's about. Are you recognized by your peers? It's one thing to have raving fans online, but do other people in the industry view you as an equal, right? Yeah. And that's something I say all the time to people in real estate. to the average everyday person, they cannot like me, but other people in the field, top people, put me at the table with them. And they say, we may not like Bryan's style or this and that, but he's great at what he fucking does and he deserves to be here. So that for me, from like a sales and, you know, public speaking and all that, all those avenues, it lets me know that I can teach this and I have a legitimate platform. So that would be the easiest way I can answer it for you, bro, because I had, opposite to you, zero interest in doing it in the beginning. But now I love it because now, you know, just like you, I employ people on the real estate side and on my online business side, but the impact you make on people, bro, is huge. And if that's kind of one of the things that's in your mind, it's amazing, bro, because for whatever reason, you're going to get people just like I did that just love you, right? And when you talk about those things, it just clicks for them and they like hearing it from you, right? And that's why I think there's so much opportunity for people in this, because everyone's going to have their little following and their best students who just vibe with them, right? And I think that's a big part of today's culture with social media is you have an abundance of opportunity, especially as a teacher, to find the people who vibe with you. And when you have that and people really tune into you and they like you inside and out, they become the best students and they get the most out of what you teach, because it's not just the material, they like you, the teacher, right? Because I would ask you, did you ever like any of your teachers when you were in school, bro? High school, college, middle school, or did you fucking hate them all?
Handful. There's some people that I vibe with, but I think, like you said, it's just that connection or the, you know, I guess the teaching style or whatever it may be, background, maybe sharing a little bit more personality.
Yeah, because, you know, and I asked that because the only, like, if I think of college, bro, I don't remember shit from college, except for like those teachers that I like. There's a few things and lessons that they taught that I remember, right? And those weren't even classes or subjects that I was so like interested in. I just realized, I was like, man, looking back on it now as an adult, like, you know, 20 years later, fuck, it blows my mind. It's because I like the teacher. So when I would be in class, I would pay attention more, right? I like their style more. So the learning experience was different, because that's really what it is, bro. When you get into coaching and helping people, you have to create an experience. I can't just sit there in front of a fucking whiteboard and here's point number 1 on how to grow your business, right? Because everybody on YouTube does that, right? So it's more than just the information, you know? And you would have to look at it from that standpoint. So you have to make sure you put that into what you do. And I know for a while, I don't know if you continued it. Are you still doing the podcast?
I've switched over to a podcast specifically for our gym. And then the goal, what's going to happen is our upstairs. So the building that I purchased has a second floor and I'm turning it into our headquarters, and I'm building a podcast studio in there. So that is going to get relaunched. But in the meantime, I have a podcast going just for Powerhouse. But, you know, that's the game plan of what we're going to execute on.
Hell yeah. Because then you look at the platforms now, the podcast is huge, but what is it? Yeah, you're interviewing people and talking, but it's the experience. If people either like the setup, right, the guests that they have, the personality of the host or whatever it is, or the type of people they bring in, that's what ultimately makes it more popular. You know what I mean? So I think when it comes to especially teaching in the modern day era, regardless of what it is, people really need to put that into effect. Like I always told people, you have to educate, inform, and entertain. And that entertain piece is what a lot of people miss, right? It is something about you, your style, something has to entertain people to keep them hooked and keep them like, okay, I'm going to Aaron because XYZ and I'm staying here, and they won't even look anywhere else. Or if they do, they always come back to you because they're like, man, I don't know why, Aaron, I fuck with the way that you do it, right? Like I can't pay attention to other people. I don't like other people. I just like you, right? And I think that's something that I've always had that is tough for a lot of people to pick up on, right? So like for you, if I asked you like about Powerhouse and like what you do, if you started teaching, what would be that X factor? If I was to ask you, like, what would you say is that thing or things that would be that X factor for you guys that would keep people coming to you versus going to someone else?
From a coaching perspective or from a client perspective? Like a
both.
I think from a client perspective, I think the fact that I give a sense of clean cutness but edginess, and I portray that in our product, like we're not just some fucking boot camp where just people are bouncing off the walls. And at the same token, we're not some type of bodybuilder style gym. We breed right in the middle because that's congruent with who I am, you know?
Yeah.
And I think people are looking for that. You know, they're looking for that community, obviously, good personality. You know, I was getting a haircut this morning. I was talking to my barber about the same thing, about when people walk in One thing that I hate was when I go into some place and nobody acknowledges you, or in the past, they won't acknowledge their clients, because if I walk in, I'm saying hi, right? But if I walk into this barber shop, right, and the other barbers are there, they're looking at me, I'm going to say what's up. But I mean, I'm walking into your house. You should fucking say hello to me. You know what I mean? I think that's just like a respect thing, Right. So those little principles from a client perspective, I know are appreciated. And I make sure that we drill that into our staff and our team. And then just the way we do things and from a personal training, I can go on and on, right? I think from a coaching perspective, like when I get ready to step into that realm, it's because I actually breed a result. I feel personal trainers, they have such a hard time making a profit in this industry. And I tell that to my staff right now, my management team and my leadership team, because if you look forward 20 years from where I'm at, nobody that I know has retired from personal training or owning a gym. I don't know anybody personally that I can look at. So I'm kind of like a pioneer in that realm. And so I tell people on my team, I was like, you guys wouldn't know an opportunity if it bitch slapped you in the face, because you're at the forefront right now. Nobody has retired from gym ownership that you can go out and ask. Everybody is just competition. So they gatekeep, right? Yep. Versus in the real estate industry, I'm sure you can, Warren Buffett, all these people that have a shitload of assets. It's like, okay, cool. I know the next step of what happens, in my industry. Whereas for me, it's like, oh shit. All right. Well, I guess I'm going to write the code for that, And that's the way I look at it. And that's what I feel that I could bring to the table, because at least you could look upwards of where I'm at and be able to accomplish what I've done, because I could teach you to do what I've done. Right. And then from there, it's just believing that, okay, I know I'm going to have this next chapter's figured out, So I feel that that's what truly sets me apart.
I love it, bro. From I would say maybe from a branding perspective, we can say, because I have a few questions in regards to this, but from a branding perspective, what's been some of the biggest challenges for you with Powerhouse?
I think in the very beginning, the branding, just like capital and being able to do what I wanted to do aesthetic wise, right? I think personally, well, I guess it's like a multifaceted question, right? So one has been capital, because now we've been able to this location that we're building, Powerhouse, location wise, is going to bring the aesthetic and the feel that I wanted to bring from an aesthetic branding point. I feel from a personal branding point and just being my authentic self, I think I struggled in the very beginning, and I think I've shared that with you and numerous calls. I know you came down to speak to the team of being unapologetic, and it's one thing that I really admired about you in the very beginning was just being unapologetic, because I didn't know what was too much or what was, not enough when it came to personality and being transparent. Whereas last year and this year, I've really focused and I've stayed true to myself of just being unapologetic, because one thing that I've come to understand is that if I shade myself and I hide my true self, then I'm going to attract clients on which I am talking to in that perspective. But if I am my authentic self, I am then going to work with the people that I want to work with, because it feels more natural. So as opposed to, I was talking to a member the other day, and, I kind of mentor him too as well. He sells solar, crushes it. And he was just saying when he goes on his sales things, his sales consults, he, changes the way he talks and, different mannerisms and not necessarily congruent to who he is. And I'm like, dude, fuck, you're losing out on so much business because you're not putting your true self on social media and the way you want to move, where people are really going to, want to work with you. And I told him, I was like, well, would you want to work with someone like me or being your true self with me? Would you rather work with me or, this one senora, that you may not, vibe with, but, and it's going to be a harder sale. And it's obviously I'd rather work with people that I'm aligned with. So I think that capital in the beginning was one thing as far as aesthetic, and then also just battling being the unapologetic approach, which, I've been able to overcome.
Yeah. Did you ever have any specific scenarios that stand out to you where you kind of had to draw that line with yourself where you have to step into the unapologetic and wear it, right, and stand by it?
I think so. Well, there's been plenty, even now, just about when I bought the building, I was like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't say anything. Maybe I got to keep this on the DL. I don't want people to think how the fuck this guy owns a gym, personal trainer, how the fuck they buy a building, how does that work? And I was like, dude, fuck this. It's I've worked hard, it's just what it is. it is just what it is. The amount of money that, we're spending on the renovations. I'm a lot more comfortable now of like what goes into this stuff. Like we're building a bathroom in the gym and it's costing like 70 grand just to build a fucking bathroom. You know what I mean? And I'm open with talking more about money and accomplishments and things of the sort, because not to brag or boast, but it's just like, dude, like, I admire people. You had posted something the other day was talking about how much you did. Like, I don't know. What did you say that you did? It was like, I can't remember the number that you posted. I'm probably butchering. It was a couple $100K in a day. That was your highest day or something like that. I can't remember what it was specifically that you had posted. And I was like, dude, fuck with that. You know what I mean? Like that motivates me. So the right person, it'll motivate them as opposed to being like, oh my God, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, 100%, bro. Yeah. And, it's interesting because I remember a situation back in the day, kind of along the lines with the subject, where I think a family friend of my parents saw something that I posted online, right? Because I think my mom said something like, oh, do you have to say things this way? Like basically she got on me, I think about cussing or some shit that I talked about, right? So then instead of just getting upset about it, I started questioning my mom to see like, what is the source of this? Just to find out, is this really something my parents care about? Or is this something different? So long story short, basically, one of our family friends complained to them, and because they didn't want to hear the complaint, they told me to stop. And I said, you see, I was like, so you don't even really care. You're just getting backlash on your end that you don't want to deal with because of what I'm doing, right? So you don't care that I'm this way. You just care that it affects you. Because if you didn't get that complaint, you wouldn't have told me anything, right? And that's what kind of blew my top off with this whole criticism and apology thing, was that moment. That was one of the moments that really stood out to me, where it kind of just shattered that level or paradigm, And I was like, man, people don't even really care. They only care, especially when they really say, I care about you cussing. It's not even that. It's what they have to deal with in their world about it. So it has nothing to do with you, bro. That's the crazy part. So in an example like you talking about the building, well, it's not the fact that you bought the building. It's maybe it makes them realize, hey, I'm not really working that hard. Or man, when I look around, Aaron got the building. I haven't done shit in a year, right? And that makes them uncomfortable. And that's why they're saying something to you or hating on you, right? And it's interesting because you're not responsible for that, right? And I don't really care. Like you live your life if you don't want to do what you want to do. But it to me, we were shortchanging the world because now you're not bragging, bro. You're stating a fact. I did this. Right? You're helping other people and inspiring other people, but now you won't do that for yourself and other people because so-and-so is uncomfortable with it. Too bad. Grow up. That's life. You don't like it? Turn off the channel. Go somewhere else. It's no different than me coming to your page, bro, every day and hating on you. All I need to do is click unfollow or block Aaron so I don't see his stuff, right? But then they'll sit there and persist, right? So you're triggering them. That's the problem. But we're not responsible for other people's triggers. You see, this goes back to what I tell people. We need to be responsible about our feelings and what we do. Like we're responsible for it, right? Even if, let's say Aaron was just hating on me, right? And talking mad shit. Well, I'm responsible for how I respond, not his behavior. It's not right for me to start yelling at him and all that. I need to be the bigger person, right? But we've gotten so far away from that, bro, that it affects even what you said. You hesitated or even thought about potentially not talking about an accomplishment that was 100% legit. And that to me is just insanity when you stop and you think about it, right? And when I started to really figure these things out, I said, man, I'm going full force because now I cleaned the slate. I'm not concerned about public opinion, all these comments and all that. And I'm just going to live my life the way that I want to live. And if I do something, right, I'm going to proclaim it to the world because you set out to do it and you accomplished it. Why wouldn't you share it? Can you imagine oh, you know what? I created the iPhone, but I didn't want to tell anybody because people would get mad. You know what I mean? Like when you blow it up to that level, it shit just doesn't make any sense, right? Because then we would be sitting here pissed like, bro, that's amazing technology. Why don't you release it to the world, right? Can you imagine that, bro? It would be crazy, huh?
Keeping, yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts, bro. It's nuts. So, okay, we talked about a little bit about the branding side, right? Now, I know you've had like personal friends involved with your business too, right? Over the years, right? How have you been able to navigate that, bro? Because from personal experience myself, anytime I've worked with family or very close friends, almost every time it hasn't worked out. And then it's later affected our personal friendships and relationships after that. Has the same thing happened for you, or how do you navigate that?
You described it perfectly. I think it's just what it is, I had a couple of friends that obviously I was partnered with, and for the sake of the experience, the sake of the learning, and I honestly think that makes me more valuable because I can speak off of having the partnerships and dealing with different personalities, working with different personalities. I'd probably never do it again, in that regard. So it's definitely affected my relationship because I don't really have a relationship with those people anymore for numerous reasons. And sometimes you just grow apart and you have to love people from afar. Tupac has that famous quote where it's like, something along the lines of, fuck, what does he say? And from like eating.
Is it the one where? Yeah, is it the one where he says like, I want you to eat, just maybe not at my table.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And it's exactly how I feel. Because I want to protect, and my proximity is so important to me. And as I've grown in entrepreneurship, the reason why I had reached out to you about the podcast. I was like, I need people like Bryan in my proximity. I need like people like so-and-so in my proximity. There's people that I need in my proximity that are ahead of me that I need to learn from, that I just need to shut up and listen, and just watch and pay attention. People that are doing what I want to do or moving the way that I want to do or moving the way that I want to move. I just need to pay attention. And there are some people that you understand that, may hinder that growth or may drag you or may pull different feelings or emotions out of you that you don't even want to visit. And it's like, okay, cool. I just need to put that aside. Yeah. And I think as entrepreneurship, I value, even though, I don't get to speak to you very often, but I value the relationship because, as you grow up in this chain, this is my I guess, understanding of it. As you're grinding and doing your thing, you're very limited to who your resources are in terms of like just being able to reach out to people. I feel like once you make it to the top and everybody's on the same level, everybody just fucks with each other. It's like, all right, cool. I'll give this person a call because we all feel like on an equal playing field. But as you're climbing, you have to reach out to mentorship, pay for mentorship, read the books, do the heavy lifting in order to get to that seat at that table, where then it becomes like a commonality. And I think at that point, you just take off through the roof because resources are endless.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then as you ascend, bro, like the power of your network increases too. Like I look now, I'm like, man, if somebody comes in, and let's say here in Miami and gets to know me, like, dude, I have like, what do you need? Right. I almost feel like a legal drug dealer. You know what I mean? Like you need a great attorney, you need this, you need that. Like I got it. You need a developer, right? This type of investor, a hard money lender, like whatever you need on the level of professionalism, I got it for you. It's either a very close friend of mine or the friend of a friend. And maybe getting to know that person would take you years, or you would never know them unless you were a part of like my friendship circle or my network, right? And that's where you've heard the saying, like your net worth is your network, right? Your network is your net worth. And then that's so true. But again, just like you said, I had to do the same thing to climb that ladder and get to the top, right? And what I feel like today is a lot of people, they don't want to do that, right? They want a shortcut or they want to make it easy. But even if it was given to people who are easy, let's say we give people access to being at the table, well, it's going to be obvious that they don't belong there, right? And that's a tough pill that a lot of people have to swallow. It's like, bro, I invite you to the table. Everyone's going to be looking at you like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, leave, right? Like, who's this awkward kid sitting at the table? And it's not a personal thing against them. They're just not there yet, bro. I remember when I was really involved in the car scene before I moved, there were certain people I couldn't fuck with until I got the Lambo. We would be cordial, but I wasn't invited into the circle until I stepped up and I got that car. Then it made sense. Now we associated more, and I didn't take it personal. I just knew, hey, to sit at that table, I got to be at the Lambo level. I can't be here. I got to be at the 400K car level, not the 100K car level. That's just the nature of it. But people take it personal, bro. They take it personal, but it's just kind of like the rite of passage, like kind of like you described it, bro. It's the same fucking thing, man. It's crazy. So you said within 45 days you want La Habra to be open. Is that right?
That's the projected timeline. We're just wrapping up. We just finished a plumbing inspection. They're throwing up the drywall right now. Got fixtures. Actually, after we get off this call, I got to order, the odds and that. I'm working with the designer, so ordered all the wallpaper, tile, and all that stuff. And then I'll have my guy come in for the flooring and the equipment, and then we should be ready to rock and roll.
Oh yeah, man. Do you have any plans to go national, franchise, any of that?
Yeah, that's the goal. The goal is to then take a year to go through all my systems and processes, redo the other two gyms to bring them up to standard. I wanted 3 proof of concepts. I know a lot of people franchise, they'll go 1 and then they'll franchise. I was like, I want to know that I'm so good I can do it 3 times and then go proof of concept. I mean, 3 times proof of concept and then go to the marketplace. And during that time, it'll probably take me 12 to 18 months, redo those spots. I dabbled in and started the legalities for the franchising paperwork and all that stuff. So I know that's going to take me some time, and we'll rock and roll from there. And the projected timeline is within 18 months. I'll have the first one sold.
I love that, bro. Are they going to follow that same concept of like the gym, the supplements, and the meal prep too, or is it just going to be the gym?
For sure the gym and so it's going to be the gym where we have our group sessions, personal training, and then we have like an Ascension, which is called like our RYP program, which is like an online coaching program too as well. And then they'll have the supplements. I'm still trying to figure out a way to do the meals, and incorporate that in there. So it is something that I plan on putting in there and having multiple streams of revenue for that franchise owner, but also being picky. Whereas, there's a lot of people, not to say names, that I've seen sell franchises down the street from our spots. They go up and they're down within 3 months just because they were sold to the wrong person.
Yeah.
Right. So being very particular on how I vet my people and how I get into it, and just looking at it as a long game and not as a get rich quick scheme.
That's dope, bro. I love that. Do you have like a projection in your mind? Hey, in 5 years when we franchise, I want this many locations, this many states. Have you mapped that out yet or no?
I've started to. And I think that's my next blockade where I'm like, well, maybe, 200 would be cool. And then I see people doing 2,000 or 500. And I was like, you know what? I want to shoot for the stars, but I also, I'm not going back and forth, but I'm trying to figure out what would be a good pace for me in which I am comfortable with and which I want, not because the marketplace is telling me I need to do fucking 500 of them. You know what I mean? And I think that as I get deeper into it, I'm going to understand what I want to do. And then, where eventually I may want to exit, you know what I mean? Where I'm going to hand over the CEO role and the growth aspect role to someone else that's going to grow the company and take it to the 2,000 mark, to the 500 mark, but I feel that as I get there, I could better answer that question. But, I've definitely thought about it though.
I love that, bro. And here's kind of like one of the last questions I got for you, bro. And then we can wrap it up this episode at least, because I'm sure we can do a couple more.
Yeah.
How long did it take you as the owner, especially in the beginning stages, to really kind of get clear about who your ideal client would be for Powerhouse?
I think that I probably got clear on my ideal client, or I know I got clear on my ideal client probably maybe like 3.5 years ago. So it probably took me 7 years. And the reason why it took me like that was piggybacking off of becoming the unapologetic. I was speaking to the wrong person. And I always knew, I knew who my ideal client was at that time in which I was portraying myself. So if I was portraying myself as this person and I need to talk this way, I know who my avatar is, right? But moving to what my ideal client is, that happened like at the 7-year marker when shit started to turn over, and being more congruent and working with the things that I want to do. And I got to limit myself too, because I have a passion also for helping dads. I feel a lot of dads just fucking shot out, let them their bodies go, just mind, done. The lack of dreaming, like no more aspirations, no more goals. And one of the things that has kind of dabbled into the coaching and where I've got like split is that I get hit up for the fitness, mentorship, asking questions, and I also get dads hitting me up like, dude, like, well, how the fuck do you do it? And that's where I also have a passion where I need to, consolidate and not get like this shiny object syndrome of also putting together some type of mentorship for, dads specifically on how to take them to the next level, so, it's something that I enjoy, because it's, being like an advocate and a catalyst for that too, as well. Cause it's like, dude, everybody fucking works, a shit ton of hours each week, bro. Like you don't got to go sit your ass on the couch after,
Yeah. Just bridge them together and name it Father Fitness. There you go, bro. That's funny, bro. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, bro. Is there, I don't know if you have any, do you have any announcements? Are you going to do like a grand opening and you kind of want to promote it on here? Is there anything you want to push before we end?
Did it freeze?
I guess so, yeah. As we wrap up, bro, do you have like a grand opening day for La Habra? Do you have anything you want to promote before we wrap up?
Not a grand opening day just yet. I will set that in stone because we're going to do a soft opening first, and then just to get things going. And then after that, we'll do the grand opening. And the reason why we're doing that, just I'll make it quick, is, I've been paying the note on that building for 12 months, and we haven't turned a profit yet. So it's like, I need to just get in, turn some profit over, and I'll knock out the rest of the renovations and the rest of the things I want to do. And then from that point, which I'm projected to be around summertime, then we'll do a grand opening. But nonetheless, you guys can follow me if you guys are in the fitness industry, Aaron_Powerhouse Fit. We have locations in City of Industry, the City of Duarte, and soon to come City of La Habra. If you want to check out our meal prep, it's FreshnFuego. So FRESH, the letter N, and then fuego.com. And also on Instagram. And then our supplements is abcperformancesups.com. So if you guys want to check that out, head on over there.
Hey, man, this man is unstoppable. Make sure you follow him, hit him up. Bro, if I'm around, because I know I'm planning the next leg of like the tour for the real estate stuff. If I'm around in Cali, bro, I'll hit you up, especially if I'm around there for the grand opening. I'll definitely stop by. Yeah,
I'll be there. And then I've been meaning to ask you too, man. I want to fly out there and, do another episode. I'll bring Anthony, my camera guy, out and we'll go shoot something if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's do it, bro. I'll get you for episode 2 in person too. That'd be great.
Sounds good, brother. Appreciate your time, Bryan.
Cool. All right, man. All right, guys. Appreciate you being on another episode. Hit up Aaron. All his stuff will be in the description. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
Take care.